In reality, only a select few individuals hold the power of influence. Not a pounce over a luxury item never to be owned, but real influence over police, governments, and even clandestine fraternities. My true story is so controversial that I invite you to comment and even question my integrity. Episode 14, Port Wing. The thing is, memories fade. We're talking a few years ago, but perhaps we are building him up to be something he's not. I don't know, but my experience is that leading counsel retains some knowledge and memory of important cases and society law and all those other things. They don't just put a head in a book every time they need to think and talk. And this was one of those cases where surely a juror related to barrister, ex-police officer, friend and work colleague of the officer in charge, surely that would be something of interest. Knowledge, memory. I won't dwell on it. It is a fact. There it is, and Carter Stevenson's made his point on it. We can ask him later if he wants to say anything about it. He's got every ability to do so. The point is I had to get on. I thought to give one last try for a professional legal representative to take a look at this appeal. I didn't want to put it through justice on appeal because I just thought that people could always say to me, you only set the justice on appeal up to feather your own nest. So I thought, well, look, I'll exclude anything related to me and my family or whatever and just concentrate on others. Even though I would be perfectly entitled to put an appeal case of my brother's through, I just didn't want the negative comment. Certainly wanted to keep things, as always, clean and simple. I carried out some research, random research, supposed in a similar way to the dating site, My Single Friend, and Meeting with Jennifer Robinson. But, with that in the back of the mind, I wondered if I'd bump into someone else related. And, the legal world is a small world. People know each other. But look, let's do it randomly. I thought I'm a bit more advanced on the computer now. I should be able to randomise this. Let's use Google or some other method of finding someone expert in criminal appeals. After a while, I came across the name Shaw Graham Kirsch, LLP, based in Dean Street, Soho at the time, now at Westgate House, 9 Holborn Road. I made an appointment with one of their principal solicitors, Mr. Raymond Shaw. I met with Raymond and explained the case and was given a price of 45 grand. Yeah, I'll throw that at you. 45 grand. He didn't know anything about the case, anything, but 45 grand standard was his reply. Look, I thought, if that's what he wants to do this case, with everything else, I'm going to have to try and find the money. Building matters was on hold, of course. The legal case with Magnet was still going on, as well as everything else. Family law case still going on. Police still going on. SIPs, specialist intervention providers, going on. All bubbling away, day in, day out. How do you focus on anything other than that? But here I was. I've got a solicitor. He's taken interest. He's given me a price. Fair enough. So thought to contact an old contact of mine, Craig Taylor, managing director of an old competitor of Custer. And in his own words, I'll say it lightly, not that he looked up to what I did, but he appreciated, as I do, his business, which is named South London Lofts, based at 36 to 38 Old Devonshire Street, London, SW12. Still there. Craig knew who I was, and I went to see him and explained my situation. He said, look, I'll tell you what, I know you can sell for fun, he said. And I've got a list of loft conversions. I can't get around them, these loft conversions. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, if you can go and wrap them all up for me, I'll donate 15 grand to your brother's case. So I thought, all right. I had about 35 grand over from Building Matters, paid that straight away to Shaw Graham Kirsch. Handed over the 12 Lever Arch files, GDS 1 to GDS 12. I'd picked up from Paul Martin co-solicitors. I'd inserted all the right pages and took out some of the pages on Wix. Visited Raymond again, just to go through the story, and he was going to arrange a meeting with a very senior toxicologist, because remember, as far as Raymond Shaw and even David Martin Sperry were concerned, the focus here, or the case at trial, was automatism. It was based on toxicology, and they thought that unpicking that was the best means of success. So Raymond Shaw were going to introduce me to another expert who would have a look at the evidence that, as it was before, and give a view. And if it was a positive view, then we'd go to the appeal court. I went to see Raymond, sat down in his small office. He said, look, perhaps I should have mentioned this before, but Paul Harris is a personal friend, and I've just been made the vice president of the London Criminal Solicitors Association. Paul Harris is now retaining the position of president. Who is it? Fucking behind the scenes, just absolutely laying the floor out in front of me, putting the tiles down. Not the brown council tiles of the Keith Courts flat. Tiles in blue and white check, Masonic tiles. Who's laying those fucking tiles out for me? Looking ahead of me. They must be into me. They must be so into me. They're fucking, they're probably causing me to fucking make the choices I'm making. They're so into me. I was in a spot I could have fucking got up and said, give me my money back. Could have said a lot of things. But before I could say much more, Ray continued. Look, of course I'm a professional and I'll not attribute any friendship nor relationships with Paul Harris to cloud my judgment. My intuition was that was absolute bollocks. But I'd paid him and I had to run with it. I just had to keep a very close eye on it. Raymond wrote to Paul Harris, whether it was genuine, honest, professional as he claimed, or it was just to smoke whatever was being covered up. But nevertheless, he did write to Paul Harris and asked him about the helicopter video and asked him about the soccer video and asked him about the evidence with Reese and Michelle Brand's statement and Wix's handwritten statements. He asked him about Carter Stevenson's email to me. He asked him about everything. Neither Paul Harris, Arlette Piercy, nor George Carter Stevenson QC responded to Raymond. Ever. Some friend, eh? A few weeks went by and I was asked to meet with Raymond, an expert witness who was going to look at this case. And his name was Professor Atul Johnston, who was at William Harvey Research Institute and with more letters and words after his name than I dare quote, Queen Mary University of London. Now this was a guy so senior that he could have a proper view on this. And look, if his view was nothing in it, rubbish, go away, then you're going to have to deal with that and go another way. The corruption route, although it's true and honest and there's evidence of it, it's a very difficult route to overcome because the system protects the system. It's the way it is. These people are in it together, not only at their lodge, but in court. It's the same difference. Whilst we all think that the court is normal and they're all making hand signals to each other and various nonsensical phrases that none of us understand. This is the second world that we live in, a world controlled by the Masonic order, a world where they look after each other, give each other work and business and contracts when they have usually no real professionalism to support them, gifts to keep the outsiders, us, away. Professor Johnston began by telling me of his experience and that he and Raymond had a chat and seen the papers, all very usual stuff. He went on, look, he said, I'm aware of your brother's expert toxicologist, Professor Robert Forrest, and I've read his reports and that of Mr. Hindmarch and Dr. Margaret Stark. Insofar as Hindmarch is concerned, I disagree. And as for Stark's statement, well, this was a report exhibited under a different phrase, so it wasn't clear why it wasn't referenced in the unused, and if it was, why it wasn't used by the defence is of concern. This is my initial thought. He then went on. I don't know whether you're aware of this or not, but Professor Forrest was my opponent in the case of the death of Princess Diana. I acted for Mr. Al-Fayed, who was challenging the Crown on various issues of malpractice and potential for murder by the British establishment, and allegedly assisted by MI6 and others. Professor Forrest acted for the establishment and was tasked to review the toxicology and samples taken from Princess Diana. This was later recorded by Lord Stevens in the Paget report. Fucking hell, I thought. Now I know that different experts, sometimes work for the defence and sometimes work for the prosecution, but, they should be consistent in their opinion, their professional opinion, certainly on how samples and toxicology acts and reacts and all those other things. He's now taken me to a place where there is, or I thought there wasn't, much higher to go. He's now brought me into the world of the conspiracy theory in the Diana case, Princess Diana case, forgive me, because he was the expert acting for Al-Fayed against the Crown of England. All right, I said, so what is it? Well, look, my issue here is that there are some significant similarities, both in the potential for swapping and or mislabeling of samples in both your brother's case and that in the Diana case. Now, that's enough, he said, but in this particular instance, both of those issues are being managed by the same toxicologist, Professor Forrest. Hang on, check back, let's go check this out again. You brought me to this place, right? No higher place. I've got enough on me already, every fucker on my case. And you just put me into the arena of the fucking Diana case. Are we starting there? Are we going into a pill in the Diana? You might as well go with corruption. As high as it is, but just fucking going with that. You're never getting nowhere with this one. You were about to say that Professor Forrest, working on the Diana case and my brother's case, acted in the same way in both cases by fabricating the tox. Fuck you, is that what you're saying? It absolutely is, he said. It's no secret. I've said it out, but I don't care what you've said openly. I said, you want to bring me there? You want to bring me to that place? All right, I'll fucking have it. Don't worry about it, I'll have it. It's my brothers. I'll fucking go anyone. I'll go with anyone. But is that where we're going? This is where we are. Are you going to fucking bring this into the fucking arena? You're going to stand up and, forgive me, you're a brave man, to stand up and back me. I mean, I'll stand up and back it because it's my family. But you're going to back this. Well, he said, I'm on the right page, he said, and I've looked for it all. I can give you a report and we'll confirm that. I thought, fucking an expert can write down, put his name and fucking career to the fact that there are similarities in the alleged fabrication of the samples in the Diana case, the same as the alleged fabrication of samples in my brother's case by the same fucking toxicologist. I mean, that would just rock the fucking world. Perhaps it's what we need to rock the fucking world. Look, he said, I'll prepare my focus on your brother's evidence and send it to Mr. Shaw. My comments about Princess Diana's case, they're troubling me. But I've got to tell you, Darren, I'm sorry. Now, you'll recall that Lord Stevens, who carried out the Paget report, was the chairman of Convoy 2000, the trustee alongside Mr. David Bright, the officer in charge of this case. I don't know how far I want to go with this, but here we go. I must say that, but fucking what's coming makes this look like chop change. Fucking chump change, let's say. Seriously, I'm going to take you places you fucking never thought existed. I've got no concerns about this. This is true. I've got the evidence. Sir Ian Blair, another trustee of Convoy 2000, with Bright and Stevens, was also a commissioner of the Met Police. It's all involved, isn't it? What's the key, the common denominator bringing all these people together? Brought me back to this interview. This wasn't an interrogation. It was like a warning, actually, of the higher powers. Is it the Illuminati, the Masons? Is it this conspiracy theories? These things are real. These people say they're conspiracy theories. They don't want to make you sound like a nutter. They don't want to fucking anyone knowing what's going on. They don't want to know what the fucking truth is. That's why it's a secret society. I was in, full on, 100%. The other thing that was odd was Bright's book, his so-called Book of Truth. How was he able to access police files? He was a civilian when he wrote the book. Retired from the police about 3 years earlier or something. Can people, ex-police, look into the police files and get the material to write books with? Well, if they can, they shouldn't. The other thing is, why was he keeping a hand in with the mother of the deceased 9 years later? Stopping or trying to stop my brothers moving on with their lives. Hadn't he inflicted enough, along with others, into our family? This was vengeful. This was personal. Yes, Mr. Bright, it's personal. And others, you know your names. It's personal. Listen on, people. Why had Bright not included the Essex boys case into his book? Now, his book's meant to be this revelation of all these honest, true cases that he led, blah, 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 rubbish. This story's enacted millions of pounds in revenue by, O'Mahony and other cranks that are fucking telling everyone that they're this commander and this fucking officer and this fucking head of the firm. Rubbish, all rubbish, nonsense. Bumping themselves up. They can do. You can bump yourself as much as you like when people are dead. They're not going to argue with you, are they? And if you've got a few people wrapped around you invested in the films and the books and all the rest of it to try and steer the interest away from them, then you've just slam dunk on it. Yes, we're going to get to O'Mahony in a while. As I say, when you're determined enough and you're learning a lot, we're sparring with the best. They're kicking the shit out of us, fucking hitting the canvas multiple times. We get up, bruised, battered, bleeding, fucking horrific injuries. We fight on. That fight on gives you the skills to fight. The more we're beaten, the better we get. Determination being that way. But look, I'm not bigging ourselves up. Fucking battered, absolutely fucked up each which way we looked, whether it's our personal relationship, mine anyway. And my father's, here we go. Everything, you've heard the story, you're hearing it. They are intent on fucking us up. And they're doing it. They're absolutely doing it. I have no fucking fear of saying that, no embarrassment. They are fucking, but I'm talking about the government. I'm talking about the British government. Their resources, their skills, their intent, their wide-reaching contacts, the Freemasons, others, who wouldn't get fucked up. But on the other hand, who's got the bollocks to fight them? Have a think about it. Right, I've got enough, I think, at the moment. There's enough going on. But now I look at it, I think, well, yeah, it was, but here we go. Out of the blue, I get a call. Hello, mate. I've got your number from a friend of a friend. My name's Les Balkwell. I live in Hornchurch and I've got a case I want you to look at. All right, I don't know who this Les Balkwell is. He's got a case. All right, he must know we're doing with criminal defence, justice on appeal. All right, okay, mate. Yeah, all right, Les. Yeah, no problem. I'll come and meet you. I'll meet you in a coffee shop in Hornchurch. All right, I'll come and meet you. So I went down and I met him and he told me his story. He said, my son was killed, allegedly, according to him. The public story is something different. But his interest, his concern, his crusade, dare I say it, is that people killed his son. Now, I'm not going to go into the story about what he says happened, why he was killed, or whatever was going on between him and the alleged murderers, because we're not a prosecution business. We're defence. Yes, justice, and justice is in all areas, but justice on appeal, the people he was calling on, are defence. Now remember, I can act professionally by not putting my own case and my brother's case for him, so I have to act professionally throughout. Professionalism is one way, right? So I keep it simple. I said, look, Les, we probably have people that can look into this and all the rest of it. I said, but we're defence. Just come around my house with me, I want to show you something. So we drove around the corner to his little end of terrace house in Hornchurch. Went into the front room, just inside the front door, and behind his sofa, which was sort of facing the front bay window, and the kitchen behind it. And I looked down at the files and the mess and the scattered papers and all that. It just reminded me of where I started. And I did feel sorry for him. I could see he was fucking on his crusade, and I could see he was fucking struggling. And I just couldn't go any further with him. Prosecution isn't my business. It wasn't my business then. It isn't now. I'm not interested in people. Well, unless it was the police or Bacon's, then yeah, some say the same thing. But yeah, they're fucking all day long. But anyway, I wasn't in this case. He then picked up a black semicircular retro-style sports bag. You may remember him like a, what I say, 2 handles on the top, almost semicircular in size, and a zip going along the top. Inside it said, look, these are all these files there, they're all papers, but these ones in here, these are important papers. I said, all right. So I had a look in, I said, peered into the top. I said, do you mind if I have a proper look, respectfully ask him? He's very important. These are like fucking gold to him as they were to us. I understood and appreciated what he had in the bag. I hadn't seen it. He began a nod of approval and leaned in and started taking out papers and sort of unwrapping them. Some of them were screwed up, probably out of anger, where he looked at something he didn't like for it. I've been there as well. Started putting them down on the sofa, on the arm of the sofa, and so laying them out as if I'm organising them for him. As I got to the bottom of the bag, I didn't know I thought there was anything in it. There was like a panelled base, a firm panelled base in the bottom. So I sort of dragged my hand along it. I was sort of looking in it as if I was choosing the teams for the FA Cup or something, and the balls out of the thing, that sort of thing. I wasn't looking in, I was having my arm in, sort of rolling it around. That's the way I describe it. Then I felt another piece of paper, which was kind of stuck to the bottom a little bit. It was very flat. So I pulled the bag open and looked inside, and I could see that was a package, sort of an envelope inside, a brown envelope. It was unsealed, so I opened the package out and I said, these are 4 DVDs in here, Les. There's no markings on them. What are these, Les? He said, I don't know. He said, I found them on the inside of my doormat one day. He said, I don't have a computer to look what's on them, and even if I did, I wouldn't know how to fucking turn it on, let alone work it. He said, I didn't trust anyone to fucking look at anything like this. He said, look, I work with a guy that's dealing with the Madeleine McCann case. He said, but I don't know who's fucking around. I said, look, I know, I get you. I know the feeling. You sometimes don't know who you're working with and all the rest of it. Tony Bennett, his name was. He said, look, I didn't even know much about it. I have a computer. I can have a look for you. I said, but, I still can't do nothing for you on the murder bit. I said, well, I'll help you. I'll have a look at what's on them and tell you what's on them. Does that help you? Oh, fucking would you, mate? He said, at least I'll know then. I said, all right, I'll do that for you. So I'll have a look at them and see what's on them. He said, well, there's one other thing. He said, I've got home one day and these were on the carpet, he said, as they are, as you see them, he said. But I also had a lever arch file standing against my door. I said, all right, well, what's in that? He said, I have to dig it out. He said, I hid it. I said, well, you go and dig that out. I said, I'll go home and have a look what's on these. Drove back to Wandsworth, opened up the computer, put these first DVD in. There it was. Police, Essex Police, Operation Portwing. Fucking hell, what's this? Operation Portwing. So I started to read Operation Portwing, and it began in 2003 and focused on the fucking Stones Throw, the same pub my brothers were convicted from. Previously, the Village Inn, or known to us as the Plough. So it began the Plough, then the Village Inn where my brothers were nicked, and now it was in 2003, had his name changed again to the Stones Throw. I could see transcripts taken from undercover officers, informants acting as undercover operatives. Although their names have been changed, the transcripts and the conversations were there. People selling drugs, guns, arms, contraband. This Plough, this Stones Throw, was a proper little haven, it seemed. There was talk about various robberies, including the robbery of Michael Flatley's Cartier diamond cufflinks. The named individual who carried out the robbery, he's bragging about it to an undercover officer, and how the diamonds had been broken up and some of them sold and some of them made into a girlfriend's earrings. What a fucking idiot, I thought. But then, how was he to know who I was listening to? He must have trusted the person he was talking to. So who was in that pub? Only the people who know who were in that pub will know who the grasses were. They were obviously known to them. What they didn't know was their informants. They'll know now. They'll fucking know they were now. Good luck. Anyway, I put on the second DVD. The statements, exhibits, fucking all sorts of things. I won't mention them. But Baldwin's Farm, South Ockenden. All very interesting, but not of interest to me. Say we're not prosecutors. The third DVD was, however, of interest because it was the Essex Police knock list. This was the list of Essex Police informants. Now, everyone says they've got it, they've seen it. It's sitting in front of me. And I know the fucking 2 names at the very top of that fucking list. Not only do I know, they're also, one of them's mentioned in the fucking evidence in the pub. All right, we're not prosecutors. I'm not going to mention what they were talking about or up to and this and the Essex police. No, they got, well, I've got what they got. That's no wonder that these fucking crimes are getting unsolved when you got fucking all this going on. Now, remember, me talking about it makes no difference. You can't grass the grass. The people in it are grasses. Now, the thing I did know, that the information, if I could have sold that information, fucking hands down, that's fucking gold dust. But the other thing I'm thinking of is, got a guy called Les, don't know him, called me out of the blue, took me around his house, prompted me over in a bag, and in the bottom of that bag, this is what I'm looking at now, all that might sound all innocent and all that, but what if he fucking did all that on purpose? And then he wants me to run around with this fucking information, these undercover police information, and fucking start trading it up or mentioning it or whatever. Had I not thought that, I'd have fucking landed these cunts in it. I went back to Les. I said, Les, look, mate, yeah. So I'll tell you what, these are the DVDs. I'll give them back to you. And what's on them, I said, is, this police investigation. I said, what I want you to tell me is, how the fuck did you get them? Because I was suspicious of him. He may or may not be the best bloke in the world, but the circumstances for me having a look at him was too much. I only didn't know what the fuck was going on. So he began by nervously mentioning his family. He said, my relation, he said, is a Essex journalist. Her name's Gina Marden. She's with the Basildon Echo and then the Thurrock Gazette, a few other papers, he said. Now, I remembered the name because she reported on the case of my brothers at the time. Go on, Liz. Well, my mum's sister has a daughter, and she's a cousin or something like that, right? I said, so you're related to this journalist. So the journalist gave him, well, he said, don't know if she did, he said, but Gina told me that she's dating a detective from Essex Police, and he thought that this information would help me in my case. So he pushed the DVDs through my letterbox and left the lever arch far up against the door. Fucking what you saying? You telling me that an Essex Police detective dating a family member of yours who's a journalist with a number of Essex papers handed you this undercover information? He did. All right, let's put it this then, all right? He said, I've dug the file out, he said, and here it is. I opened the file, and inside was a fucking, written on the top, Operation Hawkwing, case analysis charts, pH/1 to pH/10 and pH/12 to pH/31. Peters, I won't say the surname, 7409. Criminal Intelligence Analysis, 17th for the 11th 05. Now, inside this was a timeline, events, meetings, conversation, mobile phones, triangulation, all the fucking intel for the case. Again, no interest to me. But it's interesting, but no value to me. I'm going to take it anywhere, rely on it, or anything. It's fucking just a load of people talking a load of fucking shit. Criminals, crimes, fucking talking a load of shit. It was then that Les said to me, look, he said, I know you won't help me with this and that. He said, I'm grateful that you turn the thing on your van and back and all the rest of it. He said, take the file and have a look at that for me, he said, and he said, I can't look anywhere at the moment. He said, I'm in bits. He said, I'm fucking all over the place. I was intrigued. I couldn't help the case. I said, I was so fucking, honestly, I was so intrigued with all this shit. Remember, it's at the pub when my brothers are fucking convicted. He got the named people that I'm interested in fucking being put in a knock list and fucking talking in the pub about a load of fucking goings on. Of course I'm interested. So I've got to keep floating with him until I fucking, there's no real fucking value in me. All right, mate, what do you want help in? He said, if someone's helping me with this behind the scenes, they don't want to be named. He said, they don't want to be named. He said, because they've got relationships with the people that you and I know are fucking no good. All right, fucking ears pricked out. Go on then. Now, I wasn't expecting to be the name I heard, funny enough. Go on then, tell me the name of the person that's fucking helping you. Oh, he said, it's Bernard O'Mahony, the ex-doorman, and, all for those Essex Boys books. Now, I had no real knowledge of O'Mahony, even though I lived in Ockington and Basildon was just down the road. But he's definitely got no fucking East End roots. And nor do I. He's Birmingham, from Brummie, from fucking Dorman, from Raquel's nightclub. We all used to hear that he was a fucking little junkie running around fucking playing up. There were people from where I did live, Gaffer and others, were fucking chasing the cunt round all fucking weekend. And then down on the Palms and all that, it's all that got going on. You know what I mean? I don't know what his character is, you know what I mean? But he's bumped himself right up with this fucking, this, that and the other. He was not with a fucking Essex Boys gang and fucking ice. No, rubbish, all of it, nonsense. Of course he can say all that now, can't he? All dead. So what you like? Anyway, either way, Les was being helpful. Now, I didn't know if this was good helpful or old Bill helpful. There's a difference. But I had evidence, I'd seen it, that there was fucking major fucking corruption going on in my own brother's case. I was the same pub. Doesn't much way you cut it. I'm watching statements and watching fucking intel from this old Bill fucking undercover operation that there's fucking old Bill at it. So I'm fucking looking past, I'm looking through, thinking about what I'm going to do with it. Fucking next thing. I thought, I'll test Les. See if he's fucking right or not. So I phoned him up. I said, look, Les, this all sounds all lovely and wonderful. I said, but are you prepared to put your fucking name to all the things that are going on? What do you mean? I said, well, look, you've just witnessed me putting an application into the court serving Essex police for a document fucking corruption. Gina Marsden's fucking wrote a fucking thing in the Basildon Recorder or Echo, whatever it was. So I'm writing things up. I've just been to a solicitor in Hornchurch, Moss and Coleman solicitors, 170, 180 High Street. I know you didn't trust me. Not because I'd heard it, he said, I could just tell. Here's a statement, you can have it. Fuck, I couldn't believe it. He handed me a statement, quote, I was discussing the matter of justice for Lee Balkwell, my son, with Gina Marden of the Basildon Echo, and I added that a friend, Darren, also has an ongoing legal case. Darren has an application at Wandsworth Council against Essex Police in the case of Operation Westminster for corruption and fabrication of evidence. I believe that in 1998-99, David Bright was the officer in charge of the case named above. Gina Marden informed me that the Basildon Echo had been contacted by David Bright on the 9th of December and asked her why they, Basildon Echo, were reporting on Darren's story of action against Essex Police for corruption. Mr. Bright was told that the story was of the public interest and therefore a valid news story. Mr. Bright told Gina Marden that the mother of the deceased in this case, which he had led, reference Operation Westminster, had been in contact and was very upset. I make this solemn declaration, provisions of the Statutory Declarations Act 1835. Well, Les had come right. He put it down. So now there was two separate occasions where David Bright was persistent in trying to stop the release of anything in this case. Three, actually, when you look at the Tricia show. Then Lansbury Worthington Solicitors, and now in the Basildon Echo. Still following up on this. Didn't want this case to come through. Well, he's fucked now, isn't he? Let's see what he's got to say now. He won't say fuck all. But if he doesn't, then he accepts it. Let's put that little glove on the table for you, Mr. Bright. Now, let's go on. Because I ain't finished with Bright yet. I ain't even started with Bright yet. Nor the others. I wrote an email to Gina Marden in her reply, 10th of December. Hello, Darren. Thanks for your email. I can confirm Mr. Bright did contact the newspaper to ask for a copy of the recent article that we wrote concerning your brother's case. Nothing more and nothing less. I did mention this to Mr. Balkwell and he asked me if I could tell you, to which I said yes, and there is nothing more or less involved in Mr. Bright's contact with the newspaper. I hope this clarifies matters for you, and if there are any problems, don't hesitate to contact me. Now in 2020, Gina Marden became the Deputy Head of Corporate Communications for Essex Police. And in her LinkedIn profile it said, as a press officer for Essex Police, Gina delivered training and support to myself and other detectives during their training. Her experience in journalism, exceptional, and she was able to utilise and advance the media interaction abilities of our group. In addition, she has made herself available for assistance any time and is a highly valued member of our force's press office. Really? As my application for corruption against Essex Police, it was faulted. It wasn't on any good merit because it wasn't administratively correct. The content, absolutely 100%. But the wrong court, the wrong application, the wrong moment, etc. Administrative errors. Well, I'm not a fucking lawyer, am I? And I learned a lesson from it. Not least, that I heard nothing more from him. What was also interesting at the time is that Les had support from, as I mentioned, the man fighting for justice for the Trevor Lubbock murder and the Madeleine McCain disappearance. His name, as I say, Anthony or Tony Bennett. Now, he began a private prosecution against Michael Barrymore for the alleged drugs and drinks offences committed on the night Stuart Lubbock was found at the entertainer's home. Bennett co-wrote a book with Terry Lubbock, the father of Stuart Lubbock, called Not All White, Getting It Away with Murder, explaining their theory that Stuart Lubbock died as a result of a violent attack on him, which Barrymore and his associates that night covered up. This was his book, this was his story, this is what he's saying. He campaigned against the parents of Madeleine McCann, who disappeared on holiday, and you know the story. Bennett was a firm supporter of Les's crusade for justice, and along with the support of O'Mahony and another guy called Charlie Mole, who's a researcher at Prospect Films, 27 Glenford Road, W6, I wondered what Les might have to say to me, as I already explained to him that Justice on Appeal was defence-focused. I did promise him I'd do a favour and go to Wales with him, take him to Wales. His car was fucked, so I thought it's my last thing I'm going to do with Les. I know what I know and all the rest of it. I don't need to fucking go any further. So Les asked me to take him to Wales to meet with his website developer. The website developer and the website that Les had was created and funded by, according to Les, Bernard O'Mahony. Why, I don't know. But there are a few websites out there that Bernard O'Mahony is associated with, and I'll leave him for that. Let's hope he comments on what I'm saying. Now, it's all set up, confirmed by Bernard on the phone and the meeting with the website developers on. As we're driving down to Wales, Les explained that he believed his brother had been murdered and Essex police were covering up. So, well, that's fucking standard for Essex police, isn't it? I said, but, I can't start looking into it. I said, I can't fucking do no more. Anyway, we got to the guy's address in Wales, the young guy, the computer kid. And as we got to the door, the mother of the web guy was crying. She said, just leave him alone. He's run away and doesn't want anything to do with you. He's just a kid. I got back in the car. It was fucking strange. Les phoned Bernard, who was also miffed, and he hung up and got on the phone. On the phone with his contact. Les told me that the web guy had been arranged and paid for by O'Mahony, who was sympathetic to Les's case and had been assisting him along with his contacts in Essex. Let's say that. I dropped Les home and didn't anymore. I found a page 2095 actually in the undercover, where there was an undercover operative named Brian who was having a conversation with another bloke called Tony. Now Brian, these names have been changed obviously. Brian was an undercover operative. Brian said, I've been charged 11 times and I've walked away from every one of them. I hadn't heard of a phrase like that or similar, and I'm sure there are many phrases like that, but the only alarm bell that rang with me when I read that was the Blundells, when they described how they'd got away with 9, I think it was at the time, prosecutions. It may well be 11 at the point of here. Remember, I'd heard it many years ago with my friend Gary when he introduced me to an adversary of the Blundells in the cab rank shooting from Ilford. Tony turned round to him and said, there ain't no better record, mate. And Brian turned round and said, some of the things I ain't done. Some of the things I did do. But they look around this as a man that's been involved in violence and all that, mate. And then the years have gone on, I mean, I had a mate of mine took me, and my daughter, she trains, she's a former trainer of dogs who finds bombs and drugs and everything, blah, blah, blah. Tony turned around and said, yeah, you told me, you said. Brian said, my son works in customs in the South East docks. And I've had people say to me, well, what's the master plan then, Brian? I said, well, there's no master plan. Will happen one day. One day things will fall like that finish. Done with. Got that. Just the one. Brian then turns round at page 2728. I do have people in customs, To Jack. What, who can straighten it out for me? Brian, I know someone who can straighten it out for you and tell you who's on it. Then at page 3000. Brian, the bottom line is that my daughter works for the police force. I wouldn't think they're ever going to nick me. Well, I think in the police there's a lot of people that's in it because, family are in it. Unfortunately, we do need the police force, but 90% of them, well, even more and more and the longer, nicking nasties of the world. Tony turned around and said no. Well, Brian said like there's paedophiles, but when it comes to bearing in mind, I know for a fact that blah, blah, blah. I feel sorry and respect the old Bill because, it must not be easy, but so much now depends to be designed to make money. Gary was reading a thing today in a paper he knew about the Labour Party's been in and another 500 new rules you can break to get nicked. This is all very strange. People in customs, got people in the police, these criminals, these convicted or non-convicted criminals, charged, get away with it. 9 of them, 10 of them, 11 of them. So I had to return the summary elements of the DVD to Les as he would be suspicious. I copied a few others onto a USB drive. I already knew the names of the people on the knock list. That wasn't much of interest to me, and if I'd have come out with it or tried to push it or do anything with it, I'd have been fucked for that. Tony Bennett jumped all over the DVDs. He had some copies printed off and they placed them in the boot of a car for transportation to an investigator, maybe Charlie Mole. Unfortunately, and as this was going on, they were openly discussing it between them on the phone. It was no surprise their car was broken into and the papers were stolen. It later transpired, many years later, Les was under police observation at that time. I don't know whether it was because of what he was doing, whether it was because of me. One way or another, they would have been interested in every fucking one there. If this matter ever went anywhere, we'd like some disclosure on all that. We know the rules now. It was strange, Well, not so strange to me, but to Les it was strange that, this car got broken into and the website bloke ran away, and all the time, the only people who really had their hands on what he was doing was Bernard O'Mahony. He knew about the transportation with the car. He knew that the papers were in. He knew about the DVDs. He knew about the bloke in Wales. He put him there. The website, he was paying for it. Who was he working for? Who do you think he was working for? ... The other thing I was reading was that there were mention of arms being sold from military barracks in West Mersey, and even a mention of a fisting machine purchased in Amsterdam And I couldn't believe my immediate thoughts went to Lubbock, because although his name wasn't mentioned in the Portwing documents, someone, he's named in there, purchased a fisting machine from Amsterdam, and next thing you know, there's a party going on in Essex, and da-da-da, and then, you know, the story and the injuries suffered by the deceased. Who knows if they're all part of the same thing. Essex police had all this. The undercover operation Portwing transcripts went on to show that the relations and the family members of Brian were assisting the control of the UK East Coast ports, bringing in drugs, cigarettes, and even people. Their people would move the metal detectors to different ports at the point of the incoming goods, to an alternative port, hence Operation Portwing. If Operation Portwing somehow had a relative reference to the ports of the East Coast of England security, then why was my brother's case named Operation Westminster? Listen in to each episode as I engage you in my personal journey of how a boy growing up on a council estate in Essex would eventually own the most exclusive online private members club in the world.